you on Illinois Worknet, including resources like videos and activities and example resumes. I have joining me today Frank Short with Frank Short Writes, and he's going to be discussing with you a number of different resumes and the good aspects and the bad aspects of each, and hopefully you'll have a good deal of information to bring home and share with your coworkers, share with customers that you're working with. How we're going to get through the initial information is by using a PowerPoint, and so we're going to start with that. And when we're done with the PowerPoint, Frank is going to share some resumes with us, and I'll also do some screen sharing and demonstrate and show you some of the different areas on Illinois Worknet that you can use with your groups or individuals. What we'll be talking about specifically on Illinois Worknet includes the Resume Builder. We'll touch upon the job search tools that are available and really look at the videos, activities, worksheets, and more. There's also a variety of workforce professional resources that are available to you that'll make your job much easier as well. At the very end, after we've presented the resumes and done some demonstration of the website, then we'll have some Q&A. But again, if you'd like to ask questions during the webinar, go ahead and use the chat pod there on the upper left. As I mentioned, today's presenter is Frank Short. And Frank Short, can you tell us a bit about yourself?
Well, thank you, Pam. Hello, everybody. I have been writing resumes for over 20 years on a full-time basis. I actually have over 25 years writing promotional copy, and that's what I think resumes are. I started my career as an advertising copywriter, working on accounts like Kellogg's, Nestle, General Motors, and that's promotional writing, and so is resumes and cover letters. So I sort of morphed into that particular area, and I really enjoy getting people where they want to be in terms of their careers. I do resumes, cover letters, college application essays, professional bios, and of course LinkedIn profiles, which are required these days. My clients range from entry-level college graduates to corporate CEOs and sort of everything in between, accountants, sales representatives, and yes, even other writers, because resume writing is a specialty, and it takes a certain kind of training and certain kind of mindset to do successfully on behalf of our clients. I often serve as a presenter and provider of resume critiques at career fairs, as a broadcast media guest on topics pertaining to resumes and career promotion, including things like personal branding. So that's about all there is for me, and I'll let Pam get back to it.
Thank you, Frank. Glad to have you here. I know that you have a lot of information that we'll all gain a great deal of insight from. With Illinois Worknet, we do have a variety of sources already available to you, and many of those resources, particularly for individuals, are going to be accessible by going to the splash page of the website, which is www.illinoisworknet.com, and clicking on Individuals, then Prepare, and then Prepare Your Resume. We've gone towards a guidance approach, so we give individuals the steps that they need to take to go in and start preparing their resume on their own. There's a variety of other tools, but we'll take a look at that in a little bit. The new look that's coming up with Illinois Worknet appears a bit like what you see on your screen here. The splash page has a bit of a different look. We have new graphic rotators, which you've likely seen on the individual side, that are a little bit smaller. These are bigger, a little bit bolder, and the information to be able to get you to the different pathways looks very similar. So go ahead and click on Individuals again, and when you do that, you're going to see a different display of the tools that already exist. So we're not recreating anything, we're just sort of reorganizing and giving it a fresh new look. And you'll go ahead and click on Prepare. Again, the guidance approach is going to be used there as well. The Prepared pathway has a lot of information on resume writing and gives examples of chronological combination and functional resumes and gives guidance on how to do that. There are worksheets that are available so people can start putting their information together prior to sitting down and typing it up. And there's some transferable skills checklists, for example, which we'll see in a moment, and different tools that really are going to make a big difference for people. The resumes that you'll see examples of include those for people who have little or no work experience, as well as people who have a great deal of work experience or are perhaps changing careers. So there's something hopefully that will address everyone's needs. There's tips on updating the resume, and as I mentioned, there are videos, checklists, worksheets, and learning activities that you can use with your customers, particularly in groups as well. The worksheets that I mentioned include a transferable skills checklist, and this could be very helpful for people who have a great variety of skills, but they're changing careers. So taking a look at what some of their core skills that they're going to be able to transfer and utilize in a new career, this might be very helpful for them. There's a resume checklist. There's the personal information sheet that I referred to earlier. We even have instructions on how to write a 30-second elevator speech so people can use that to be able to network and sell themselves a little bit more. And lastly, as you see on this page, there's a job search record. So as people apply for jobs with their resume, they're going to be able to keep track of who, when, where, did they get the interview, some feedback on that as well. So that can be helpful for them as well as to share that information with you. All of those files are going to be downloadable as PDFs or Word files. The activities that we have on Illinois Worknet have been developed, and initially these started off in the summer youth programs, but they've morphed into activities that are really useful for everybody. Once an individual logs into their account, what they're going to be able to do is go in and work on activities, save answers, save results to those activities, and if you're working with them and they're put into a group that you have access to, and they agree to be part of that, what you're going to be able to do is access and take a look at the answers to the activities that they have completed so that you can share and have some really good conversations on any of the topics that you see here. With regards to resume do's and don'ts, well, that's something actually that Frank is going to be able to talk to us more about today. And Frank, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure, Pam. I look forward to it. There are 10 key factors that I believe make for an effective resume. Uh, pardon me. These include appropriate formatting, and by formatting I mean things like type styles. Times New Roman is, of course, the sort of the industry standby. Also Arial, and these should be in the Times New Roman should be in 11 point if it's used, or Arial if it's used should be in 10 point. These are sort of best practices in the industry. Um, More importantly than type fonts, though, is of course the resume needs to have a strong focus, and that will help engage the reader. And the reader is the most important part of this. I wish I could say that my Deathless Prose or yours would get jobs, and if it would, then we'd all be very wealthy. But the fact of the matter is that we need to focus on what it is that the reader's interested in, and that really amounts to what is it can the candidate do for him or her. The other thing that is important is the lack of, or I should say simply using no objective statement. Objective statements are no longer industry standards, and the reason for that is probably because we are indefinitely in a buyer's market when it comes to labor, and objective statements tell what the candidate wants, but unfortunately they don't address what it is that the reader wants to know, whether that reader happens to be a corporate recruiter or a headhunter or a hiring executive. Objective statements aren't what they want to hear. What they want to hear is, what can the candidate do for me? Strong data prioritization. The most important thing should be listed first in the resume. I believe that that should start off with a summary statement rather than an objective statement. Summaries can be anywhere from 3 to 4 lines long, or even up to 8, sometimes even more, depending upon what the candidate is able to do and how complicated their background is to convey, and also whether the person is trying to enter into a career change. Uh, and then, of course, the resume needs to showcase and quantify the accomplishments or the achievements of the candidate. And that is, possible to do in a number of ways. One can talk about if it's a salesperson, of course, how many calls they made, how much they increased revenue, what the scope of their the size of the revenues that they deal with, uh, and uh, and other things. Of course, if it's a person who is, say, a project manager, again, I can talk about the size of the project and what it is that has been processed by that particular person. The other thing to do, number 6 here, is to exclude non-relevant data. And that has to do with, well, one of the key offenders these days is references. References are not really relevant. Everybody knows that somebody has references, so this is no longer used. And it's better to use that space that's taken up for references on to convey some important data about the candidate. The appropriate length for a resume, many people think it's one page only. That simply isn't true. The resume's appropriate length is however long it takes to convey the information that it needs to convey, to do the communicating or selling job that it needs to do. So for a candidate with, say, 10 years or more of experience, definitely a two-page resume is in order, assuming that that person has had, several jobs in the course of his or her career. Uh,
Frank, are there any
yes,
resumes that are too long?
yes, there are resumes that are too long, and that's when they begin to tell information that that doesn't convey the benefits of a person's background. When it starts to talk about minutia and just too much detail, then the resume is too long.
Great, thank you.
Okay, the avoiding personalized or casual language, um, the use of personal pronouns is not appropriate. Certainly, the use of contractions like can't or uh, that should not be used on the resume. It's to be avoided. The exclusion of repetitive data, and I'm probably as guilty of this as anyone, but once something is said in a resume, it should not be stated elsewhere in the resume. The reader doesn't have time to, be re-exposed to information that's already been provided. And the important thing there is to take the data and make sure that it's a focus item or a highly prioritized item on the resume. That's the way to drive that information home. The next thing, of course, is simply the mechanics. Flawless spelling and grammar is essential. The spelling, of course, can be solved by spell check or the dictionary. Spell check is to be avoided in terms of relying upon it when it comes to grammar because it's not flawless. And it will look at things like the fragments that we use in a resume, performed project management services on a wide variety of industrial, business and consumer activities, let's say. But when it gets to that performed only, it will choke on that and it will say this is not a complete sentence. So that's where we are on that.
Another
Yes,
question
Pam.
for you, Frank.
Sure.
When you're writing a resume, how much of that resume is being written for the reader and how much for the search engine or the scanner that's being used?
Well, yeah, thanks, Pam. That's a good question. Um, it's always being written for the reader. Even the applicant tracking systems are in effect readers. Those applicant tracking systems are going to be looking more for buzzwords that are appropriate to the person's position and um, the role that the person is to fill at the company. So applicant tracking systems now go through about, well, conservatively 50% of all resumes are read by these
Hmm.
computerized systems. However, ultimately it will be read by a human being, let's hope, and
Hmm.
if it's a recruiter or a hiring executive, then that resume needs to be appealing to that reader's eye and that reader's need to know. Um, so that's pretty much where that's at. Any other questions on that, Pam, or does?
Not right now. Please proceed.
Okay. Okay, there are sort of 7 pitfalls to resumes, and that is the desire to reflect one's personality into it. This can often be seen in things like the use of designer typefaces, let's say script, is sort of an obvious offender. Um, the uh, the other thing is it is sufficient to only list the month and year when listing employment dates, or better yet, just year to year, unless that person has a lot of very brief employment or is perhaps a student coming into the workforce and has internships.
Thank you.
Uh, let's see, the again, reflecting the personality is something that the reader is not interested in at this point. That would be saved for the interview. Uh, Another pitfall is that how long can a resume be? Well, if you list everything that you've done, the chances are you'll wind up going back to preschool days, and that's much too far back. 10 years to tops 15 years is as far to go back in a resume as one really needs to do, unless of course the job that one is looking for, the only experience that's available is, let's say, 10 or 15 years ago, in which case, yeah, then you include, that information that goes that far back. We talked about this a little bit on the previous slide, telling the recruiter what you want. Again, the fact that you want to utilize your college degree or your 10 years of experience in, let's say, project management again. The recruiter does not want to hear about that. The recruiter is interested in himself or herself. How can you make my job easier, better, faster, simpler, etc.? And that would also, of course, hold true especially for the hiring executive. Um, there is no such thing as a document that will guarantee an interview or job offer. Again, here, if that were the case, I would be an enormously wealthy man if I could guarantee interviews or job offers. Um, one fault in resumes is that there's the tendency that once one has written the resume, that resume sort of becomes a one-size-fits-all document. And that's not the case. While one has to have sort of an overview of one's career, it should be further customized to the particular situation that's being called for. For example, if you can obtain a job description from the employer, if that's available, then the resume should be tailored to those particular requirements. Not saying that this is not to say that you can't include other information in addition, but you still want to try to keep it to either one or at most 2 pages for the most part. And that would be true especially for the candidates that are likely to be requiring our services in this particular segment of the market. Documents that please, one's spouse or parents or colleagues. Again, what your spouse thinks of it is not important. What your parents or colleagues or friends or neighbors think about it is not important. The only person that's really important here, and I can't stress this enough, is the reader. So if your spouse wants you to add something that they think is important and it isn't relevant to that particular job search, then ignore your spouse. I know that there are pains to doing that, but that's what has to happen. The document that is perfect in every way, this is sort of goes back to the one-size-fits-all point. You want to avoid the idea that we're going to make this document finally perfect and it will then answer all the questions that may be in the reader's mind. No resume will do that. It's not going to be perfect in every way. There may be font discrepancies. There may be usage of months and years in the employment dates. There may be that dreaded references available upon request. Even if these things are in there, then you don't need to worry about it because no resume is perfect in every way. Okay, and then resume rules for career changers. Again, here, rather than using an objective, you want to use a summary statement that talks about what it is the person wants, is able to do and what the benefits of their experience is. And to some extent, you can, in this area, work in what it is the person wants to do as well, but it has to be served up in terms of what the reader's interest is. Stating every conceivable skill that could be transferable to the new position one seeking to fill. Again, you're not going to know every conceivable skill that could be transferable. Many times, even with a good job description, there's other information that could be included or excluded that would better please the applicant tracking system or the HR reader or the hiring executive. Sort of each of these things, the computer, the recruiter, and the hiring executive may have different views of what's important for a particular job and the candidates for those jobs. Go back as far into your history as is helpful. I touched on this in terms of the candidate who may have to go back 10 or 15 years. As long as it's helpful to the pursuit of the job at hand, then it's certainly worth doing. Any?
Yes, with regards to some of the items that we just discussed on the last page of things not to include on a resume, and I think this could probably hold true for career changers who are going back to school, that should they include information about a senior project that they worked on if that information is relevant to the job they're applying for?
Yes, that can be done if that's relevant, unless, of course, there's work experience that would better answer the company's need. School projects are school projects, and compared to regular work experience trumps school projects significantly.
Thank you. Thank you. Please proceed.
Okay. And then how to get the best results. Use that qualification summary. Uh, stress the benefits of the experience in that summary and support the benefit claims with professional or amateur experience if no professional experience or accomplishments are available. Okay, and then finally, I would suggest to the candidate use and yourselves use the tools, resume resources on Illinois Worknet. Use resume how-to books in the resource room or in your library. Probably the best single book that I know of is Knock 'em Dead Resumes. Um, Consult the resource room and or the librarian. The librarian may know of more recent books, and current trends are always, you want to be, responding to those trends as much as possible. Researching prospective companies. There's no substitute for doing one's homework. Um, One of the best resources here, for example, in the manufacturing area would be the Illinois Manufacturers Directory. One might also use Moody's or Fortune 1000 directories that talk about the company, its locations, its size in terms of dollar volumes, number of employees, locations, markets that are served, whether it be for products or for services. These tools need to be used. Certainly Googling the company. If you know how to use the Google, then use it, and it's so simple, why wouldn't one? Um, the other thing is to send out dozens of resumes, hundreds. Many people have been out of work for a year or more. Most of them are probably out of work, or many of them who have been out of work for that long simply haven't sent out enough effective resumes. And so it's our job to get them a resume that works and, of course, make sure that it's, uh, once it's been written, that it's published, otherwise perish. So get it out there to as many readers as possible. Networking is essential. A friend of a friend has always been the best way to get a job and always will be. Whether it's one's neighbor or someone at a job or career fair, wherever it is that you can get face-to-face contact, do so. And of course, the other thing to use is the great social media tool LinkedIn, which has become an absolute essential. So you have to have not only a good resume, but a LinkedIn profile as well.
I have a question for you, Frank.
Sure.
With regards to networking and getting information about how to write your resume, some of that also includes using the right terminology, as you've talked a little bit about before, and I know you'll cover some when we get into the resume examples. And I wonder if
Mhm.
there are any resources that you would recommend other than Illinois Worknet, because we do have some great career information that would provide it, but do you have any sources that you would look at to discover keywords for a new career or for a career change?
To discover keywords.
Keywords that would be important to use in a transition resume.
Well, there are certainly lists of those that are available. You can simply Google, resume keywords and come up with, more information than you could possibly use to do that.
And it, would you then Google by industry or uh, job title?
It could be by either industry. It could be uh, keywords for job changers, keywords for accountants, keywords for salespeople, whatever.
Notice here that someone said that using ONET is also another good source.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I'm not too familiar with that, but why not?
OneNet is a really good source. I would recommend to you as well. It
Okay.
has a lot of career information, but we'll talk about that another time.
All right. Well,
Because
a
I know
long
people who
time
are on the
ago,
road may need
a
that.
musician friend of mine that I worked with in writing jingles, he said to me, Frank, play all the strings. And that means to use all the possible tools that might be available. If you're looking for work, it is a full-time proposition and needs to be approached that way. So there's plenty of time to do one's homework.
Great. Thank you. Well, as we move forward, we want to talk a little bit about a cover letter and what
Yeah,
should be included on that.
cover letters are less important these days than they have been heretofore, but a cover letter does provide a good opportunity to tailor or customize the resume. A good cover letter should be no longer than one page. It should include the 3 to 5 paragraphs we all were taught about in high school and college in terms of essays. Paragraph 1 should be a statement of how the writer will benefit the prospective employer. Again, that what's in it for me becomes very important. Uh, how skills match that job. Uh, again, you can reinforce what's in the resume or simply add new elements of new information that might further impress the reader. And then in paragraph 3, certainly thank the reader, but most importantly, again from the interest of the job seeker, is tell the reader what action you would like them to take. In other words, ask for the interview. Ask for the phone call. You can provide your contact information. Even if there's a letterhead at the top, the contact information in the last paragraph can be, please call me on my cell phone at, and then the telephone number. Thank you very much for your time and consideration.
And like to show you everyone some resume examples, and for as Frank gets ready to share those, and um, go ahead and do that, Frank, over there on the right-hand side. What I would like everyone to do for a moment, if you would please, is answer a few questions for us. Okay? Those polls are open, and I'm curious what your background is and what kinds of tools you use. So if you could please go ahead while he's bringing. Please tell us about Jane's resume.
Okay. Every resume should include complete contact information, the name of the person, of course, a street address, city and zip code. U.S. is not necessary, so some people want to get, very detailed, but we all know that if it's in Chicago, for example, or Illinois, that it's in the United States, unless you're going outside of the country for a position. The telephone number should be included if you want to say provide not only your home landline but your cell number as well. Whichever number or numbers you prefer should be there. A um, email address is essential as well. Most people will be contacted via email rather than by phone these days, certainly. And it's important also to have an email address that is like this one, Jane C, rather than redhotmama@gmail.com. Those kinds of personalized, again, that personalized resume, you don't want to have that.
Um, But before you move
Yes,
on,
ma'am.
Frank, if
Sure.
someone is uncomfortable with putting their direct street address on there, is it acceptable to put their city and state and zip code only?
It's actually probably better just to use the phone number and the zip code and the email address rather.
Okay.
But some people will use the city and state in order to give some indication that yes, it's going to be easy for me to get to work.
Okay. And so they could see that. Makes
Yeah,
sense. Thank you.
yeah.
Do they view PO boxes as
PO boxes
undesirable?
create a sense of distance from the reader, and I would not use them.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Here's a resume with a summary, and it's a really nice brief summary. Highly motivated, dependable, licensed practical nurse. Now this talks about, this is an example of where you're not saying what it is that you want, but at the same time you are saying it because you're saying, I want a job as a licensed practical nurse, okay? But it's not served up as an objective. Proven ability to initiate appropriate action, follow instructions, carry out tasks. This is important. I would change this resume and make the proficient in patient care the sentence right after licensed practical nurse. Again, it pertains more to the nursing experience than sort of the general experience of taking appropriate action. Same thing with team player with effective interpersonal communications. So if I were prioritizing this, I'd say proficient in patient care, proven ability to initiate appropriate action, team player with a positive can-do attitude. Now, this person's resume then focuses on their volunteer experience. I think it's more important to focus on education because that's what the person is really selling is their most recent 2010, say it's 2011, uh, LPN certificate. That's very important. The a year of schooling is important, and the internships that were fulfilled at the various hospitals is extremely important. So I would start with education for this candidate, and it's okay to have Richfield Senior High School. Of course, if there's a community college, then that should be included. After that, I would take the related volunteer experience with the American Red Cross. That's certainly good. The Courage Center is helping disabled patients. Anything that has to do with patient contact, patient care, any sort of helping activities in general. This is all important, but I would have, again, I would have that volunteer experience at the end of the resume.
Is it sufficient to use the month and the year and not the specific date?
I'm I'm sorry, the month and the year?
Right. So, for example, for the volunteer position there, you see that it's for from February to August, um, respectively, of 1999 to 2009. Is that sufficient? You wouldn't need to say, like the 1st of February to the
No, you
23rd of
wouldn't
August?
need to say the 1st of February, and in this situation, you can simply do 1999 to 2009. The months become sort of trivial if somebody's been a volunteer for 10 years.
Okay. So if it's a short period of time. But I would imagine consistency across
If you're doing
the resume would be
something,
sufficient or expected.
again here, the Courage Center experience runs almost 2 years. Just 2003 to 2005 would be the decision I'd make. I've got another resume here that I'm going to pull up for someone who wants to be in bank management trainee program. And I'm going to contradict myself right here about using objectives in a situation where someone is so closely focused on a particular, kind of a program for the next employment, then it's okay to use that objective. It spells out, particularly what that person wants. However, after that is professional skills. This, in effect, is a summary. Um, I think that strong computer skills, specifically relating to banking software systems, is an important element, but it's not as important as excellent customer service and communication skills. This is sort of the money point here in professional skills, because the person cannot be a good manager, bank manager, without being able to deal with customers and, of course, with employees. The next thing that I would prioritize here is the able to quickly adapt to new situations. Computer skills sort of relates to Microsoft Word, so computer skills banking software systems would be the third bullet, and then the fourth one would be MS Word and Microsoft Office programs in general.
Would
Yes,
you say
Pam.
that the formatting of this page, utilizing those lines, would make this an example of not a great resume, just because of the lines that are on there?
Yeah, thanks, Pam. I had overlooked the lines here, but these lines are really bad for two reasons. Number one, the applicant tracking software tends to choke on them, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And number two is for the human reader, these lines function as gigantic periods. And periods, of course, are, what we've trained our eyes to stop at. You don't want the reader to stop under any circumstances, if you can avoid it, in reading this resume. So if they're getting a period in the form of one of these lines, it tells them to stop, and that may be the end of the reading of that resume. And if the resume isn't read, no interview is going to arise. The other thing you'll notice here is the professional skills. There are no periods after the bullets. The bullets are their own punctuation. There's no need to have a period following the bullets.
Point. Thank you.
Okay. Professional experience. This person has worked at Wells Fargo Bank. Certainly we all know Wells Fargo, and of course anyone who's in the banking industry is going to. Same thing is true with U.S. Bank. That's important. The fact that it was in St. Paul, Minnesota, or Champaign, Illinois, simply isn't important. So it shouldn't be bold-faced. That's a small detail, and if people may want to know you're engaged in a particular market for some reason or other. Among bankers, it may be that St. Paul is a different market altogether than, say, Minneapolis. I don't know about that, but I almost always only put Minneapolis, Minnesota, or the cities and states in light face. The title, I believe, should be in boldface. It's every bit as important as the bank where the person worked. Um, the other thing, along with this business of periods and lines and so forth, is avoid the use of italics. Italics are, in fact, harder to read. The temptation is to use italics because it gives you a different look. But in fact, for human readers, italics are harder to read, and anything that makes the resume difficult to read is to be avoided at all costs. Okay, let's this experience, again, up here with Wells Fargo, received the President's Award for Outstanding Customer Service. This is an important point for someone who is looking for this kind of bank management position. And if they don't have any management experience, they just have the teller job. That's worth doing. The fact that they processed customer transactions efficiently and effectively is an important factor. What would be better here would be to quantify this and to say processed, between whatever it might be, 200 to 400 transactions a day. Assisted with vault operations. This says the person's been trusted. Obviously, the vault is where the money is and the important documents, so that's worth saying. Uh, Again, there's a little duplication here with provided prompt, courteous service to customers. I would say something like, you might start these bullets off with, provided prompt, courteous service to customers as evidenced by receiving the President's Award for Outstanding Customer Service. Served as a mentor to 20 new tellers. This again is a nice quantified statement. And if you've served as a mentor, that's very close to obviously being the manager of the bank. So that's worth including. I would do that. Yes, Pam?
I was going to say, is an interesting point there on one of the items that you have listed with and have highlighted right there. Should the number 20 be used, or would spelling that out be preferable?
Well, it's again the usage would, if it was fewer than 10, you would spell it out. If it's more than 10, use the number.
Okay. So this really is a good example of some things not to do.
Well, in this case, it's something to do. The 20
okay.
new tellers is
something to do. Because I see a little bit lower in the next teller where it talks about 3 months and the number 3.
Right. 3 months is fine where it talks about, the number should not be used right there. The word should be used. Again, this is in the area of no resume is going to be perfect, okay? Mm-hmm. So if it has 3 months in there, that's probably not going to be the reason why the person isn't called in for an interview.
Gotcha. Okay. I understand.
Okay. So, and then, of course, this person working at U.S. Bank began as a part-time teller and then was hired as a full-time teller within 3 months. This is a good quantified statement and is important indeed. Person has been promoted, in effect, from a part-time position to a full-time position. And you might even serve that up as promoted from part-time teller to full-time position within 3 months. A little stronger way to say it, and a stronger verb.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well,
various. Yes, ma'am.
Gotcha. I'd say, can you move on to the education in the bottom, because we need to come to a close within 10 minutes here. So.
Sure. Sorry if I'm taking too much time.
No.
The subject near and dear to my heart.
I totally understand, and
okay.
We thank you for your depth.
Okay. Education is important here. The fact that the person has certificates from the American Institute of Banking, which is the leading bank training organization in the country, if not in the world, is important. The references available upon request, again, that's simply a waste of space, or it just gives the reader, it just takes away from white space, which is better used. Especially here when we have these lines, it might be a good idea to use a line of space rather than a line of a text line. Okay.
Well, Frank, I'd like to show people where they can find some of the resources. And there is a third resume, everyone, that you can download and take a look at. It's a good resume. It's at a slightly different level as someone who's transitioning from one career to the other and is presenting their skills in a way using a summary as well. I think you'll find that interesting. In the file share, if you click on the professional resume, you'll be able to get an example of that as well. And we'll be adding that to the individual's example so that you and your customers will be able to take a look at that as well.
I would just add that I received word from the candidate on that resume that within 4 months she had successfully transitioned to a new career and substantially more income.
Oh, yeah, and that's a very good point to make, because I know on that resume, and I'll talk a little bit about it if I may while I bring up a SharePod as well, okay, that on that particular resume, the, okay, SharePod here, on that particular resume, the individual who was transitioning from one career to another really didn't have experience in the job that she was looking to take on, but in that time, displaying her skills, she was able to promote really that she did have what she needed to be able to perform well. You should see a gray screen right for a moment, and then we're going into, and you'll see the Illinois Worknet splash page. Again, if you or your customers go to individuals and go ahead and click on that pathway, where you're going to be able to find a lot of information about writing resumes, including the worksheets that we talked about earlier, and then find access to writing a resume, is by going to the individual's pathway and clicking on Prepare. You'll notice on the page here that I have a whole variety of items available under Home, including My Resume, which is going to take me directly to the resume page. Why that appears is that I've created an Illinois Worknet account, so I'm able to do things like create and store up to 20 resumes and be able to access those from anywhere that the internet is available. That's very helpful as well, because I know at many libraries, for example, there aren't USB drives to be able to save your resume to be able to take it with you, and that's a great way to be able to do that. Either clicking on My Resume is sufficient, or if you go to Prepare and that option, it's going to take you to a page that will show you some step-by-step guidance, as well as the video. You saw the video pull up there. But with each of these numbers, there's guidance to be able to tell people what they need to do next. On the left-hand side in the menu bar, where you're going to be able to find the information you're looking for, there is Prepare a Resume. With clicking on that page takes us to basically the landing page that enables us to go and access the Resume Builder. Now, the Resume Builder is a tool, a service that people can go on and step-by-step create a resume. They can copy and paste text into that information, although the formatting isn't quite the same. But that is something that's available to them, and they can go and create a resume quite easily. So those tools are available. Again, there's information including videos, and because my page is a little bit larger, the playlist is displayed differently. But you can easily see that there's lots of videos that are available on writing a resume, and this can be something that would be helpful to people, whether it's presenting your employment history, how to select the right resume type, creating a combination resume. All kinds of information is available to you. So you have the Prepare the Resume information that's available here, but as a workforce professional, there are resources available to you as well. On the Workforce Professionals page, which is accessible again by going to the splash page, clicking on Workforce Professionals, enter here. Again, if you have created an account, you're going to be able to see lots of sources. I have a few more options as the State Content Manager than you might see when you log in, but you will certainly see resources when you go to your Workforce Professionals page. When you click on resources, you'll see lots of details, including on the left-hand side, assisting individuals in workshops and training and creating resumes. So there's tools available. There's even a card that's available for you to be able to print out to give to individuals, so they know, this is how I can prepare for a job. This is, I can go to Illinois Worknet, 4 easy steps, and a place for them to write down their name and their login name and their password. So those tools are all available to you at any time. Right here for a moment, you can see the resume builder that I was referring to a moment ago. And when they log into this, as I have before, I've created here so you can see all three. Great, there you go. So if you please could go ahead and answer those questions. See if there's an extra questions we can answer. There was a question, Frank, if you might answer, where they were wondering about the presentation of references. And to have, would you suggest that it's better to have a separate reference page than to add that onto your resume?
Yes, a separate page with perhaps 3 to 5 references is fine. It's not something that is ever sent with the resume. If they're not interested in the candidate's background, then there's no point in providing the references.
Okay. And should they ever present that on their resume?
Not on their resume. It should only go with that person on a separate sheet for the interview,
Great.
unless, of course, it's been requested. If they've asked for it, give it to them.
Because that's going to be one of their deciding factors, I would imagine, as to whether they will read the resume, is if it has the information they asked for.
Right.
Correct. Well, thank you, everyone, for attending. Please do take a moment to answer the polls and let us know what you thought the most important point was that you got out of the webinar. If you have questions, we encourage you, please do let us know. And I will be archiving the webinar, so you'll be able to find that on the Workforce Professionals Pathway, including also the handouts that we've used today and that were available in the SharePod. So I thank everyone for attending. I know it's the very end of the day. I hope that you have a pleasant evening and look forward to working with you in the future. Send you, lastly, an email letting you know the summary of the results from the polling questions that you've seen here, as well as